welcome to Q&A with S&A. Today we are really lucky to have a guest with us who we have only just recently met, and it's terrific that our network has brought us together. So welcome to you this morning, Doug Gibson from Invictus Partners. It's so great, and we met online with a Teams meeting, which those are the days, Teams meetings, as an introduction from a good friend of ours and business colleague, Earl Eddings, who you know as well. Yeah. So thank you, Earl. Bit of a shout out to Earl this morning. Tell us about yourself, Doug.
Yeah, well, thanks, Andrea, and thanks, Shane, for the opportunity to come and have a chat. So where do I start? Do you want to start? Well, I was born.
I know. Well, you can start from the start and go from, you know.
Yeah, so Doug Gibson. So I am the founder of a company called Invictus Partners. So we're a enterprise software advisory firm. So we don't sell, we don't implement. We basically work with clients to help get the balance of power back away from the vendor and back in the client. So we do it because we love it. Yeah. And everyone who joins me does it because they genuinely want to add value back to their customers. So we've created this opportunity in the business where people come and love to be there, right? So it's not seen as a job.
So what does that, getting the power back from the vendors, what does that mean?
What does that mean?
Yes.
It could mean so many things, right? So I think the biggest challenge that clients have is that they don't understand that they own the software, but the vendors always govern and control them, right? So we always classify it as a primary school, right? So we come in as an advisor and we're a preppy. Yep. We tell them, hey, watch out for this, look out for that. And then the client goes, they're a year 3. They go, preppies, we know what we're doing. We're good. We handle it. It's okay. And then in come the vendors a year 6. Yep. And then they fold like a deck of cards. So because they don't understand what to negotiate on, what power they have, understand their contracts, understand where the value is. So we provide that back to them so that they can go and deal with the bullies in the year 6s.
Yeah. So this is software, so software subscriptions for, don't need to mention names or anything, but software subscriptions for products, etc.
Yeah, correct. I mean, we can do some name like Microsoft, for example, right? I mean, everyone on the planet, well, most people have Microsoft in one way, shape or other, whether it's email and all that sort of stuff, right? Yeah. So making sure you understand all of that, understand what you own, how you own, use what you own and get value out of that. If you don't.
Yeah.
Then get
so
optimization.
Only pay for what you need.
Correct.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
And pay correctly.
Aha.
Don't get gouged.
Right. They wouldn't do that, surely.
Oh, hell no.
No,
Definitely not. No.
I think when we had our first online meeting, and the thing that resonated with me and what you said, and you've said it to us now in this podcast, that you do what you do because you love it, because it's all about, service to other people and making sure that they've got the information that they need to go about their business. And so that is exactly what we do as well. And when you said that to us in our online meeting, I said to myself, Doug is the sort of person who I want in our, community, because that is exactly the reason why we do what we do. And what you do, and I tried to explain this to Ali when she was putting together our little script, was that you help people not pay more than what they have to pay. And it's stuff that the layperson has no clue about. And I explained to her that you deal with really big businesses. So like what we do at Aintree Group, you can advise us about how all of that works. And our clients are pretty much the same sort of size or smaller than us. We have a few that are bigger, but you deal with like big, lots of seats. And there's lots of money at stake in these things. So, and we're talking about huge businesses. It's not just like your corner store or whatever. But the value is still the same.
They've got the same problems, right? I mean, organizations, whether you're an Aussie Post, a National Australia Bank, whatever, or you're someone who's a $2 million turnover, but you're using 50 seats of Microsoft. The challenges are still the same. It's just scale. That's the issue, right? So we've had stuff like yesterday. I had a call from a client who I said to him, look, we're not for you. Don't take it the wrong way. But guess what? Tell me what you got. And I gave him a whole lot of pointers. And I said, go and do this, go and do this, go and do this. This can help you. And he came back and he said, I did that. Literally came back this morning and said, I did that. And you know what, Doug, you've saved me some money. I said, fantastic. He said, what do I owe you? I said, absolutely nothing. It was half an hour phone call with me. I can point you in the right direction. And it was great. But you know what? They'll tell their friends.
Correct.
Absolutely. 100%. Because I always found that when you work with people, if you operate transactionally, they will treat you transactionally, right? Because we're all people, right? And then if someone sits and go, what's in it for you?
Yeah.
Right? Then, money makes the world go round. We know that. But there's got to be, it's not always, I'm going to do this because I want that. That's it. Because if you do that, you might get one deal. Maybe squeeze the next one. You're done after that. Because people will just go, oh, well, they only see us as this way as opposed to investing into us. So your clients, for example, the big risk that they'll face is a lot of them will be doing stuff that's in the cloud now, right? And it's how do they control that spend? And I think it's just if they understand how that model works, they can manage it better. But the vendors don't educate them on how that model works, right? So think of it as when you go to the cloud, it's like a utility model. You turn on, you turn off, but you need to make sure the agreement you have lets you do that. And if it does, you've got flexibility.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, I've had some friends phone up and say, listen, for my business, what's the advice and guidance? And I'll sit there, tell me about it. Okay. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? They can go and execute it because they might not even have an IT person in their business. Right? But a lot of the stuff in today's day and age for smaller businesses is all online anyway. So it's things as long as they understand it, they can address it and get some value out of it.
So do you have to keep on top of the different subscription models that these big players have? Because they'd be changing them all constantly. And therefore, how do you keep across all that? Because it must be a very labor-intensive process of actually understanding the different subscription models or whatever it might be for those clients.
Yeah, we do. We have to. What I say to anyone who wants to work for me, as I said, you need to come with a learning mind, not a knowing mind, right? Because a knowing mind is I know, and you don't actually learn. And trust me, every day you're learning in what we do. So you think you got it. You're constantly, because everything's changing. So it's important. So what we do is we pick the key vendors that we know are sort of like, think of as the big anchor tenants. And if you understand them, the rest are easy. Right. So, you look at, for a good example is Broadcom. They do semiconductors. They bought Symantec, which does the antivirus. They bought CA, and now they bought VMware, which is the virtualization technology. They spent $63 billion on. And they've changed the rules. They've literally come in and said, oh, we don't care. Those licenses don't exist. Your renewals are X. And the renewals are you to subscription and pricing going anywhere from 3 to 10 times what it was last year.
Wow.
So that's a 300 to 1,000 times increase in pricing. And everyone's going, hang on, this doesn't work this way. So you have to be on top of that all the time. So my team spend any downtime is in research, right? So which is usually between 2 and 3 in the morning, right? So anytime it has to be downtime is research. And research comes from going online, researching portals, forums, all that sort of stuff. One of the great ones is Reddit. I mean, I'm like going there and I'm going, really, Reddit? And I went on, there's like VMware forums and people are sharing ideas. I've just received this and I go, wow, this is incredible. When you don't understand, there's such great sources of information. The issue is distilling it all.
Correct.
Because there's so much, right?
Yes.
And understanding that the vendor's interpretation is always the thing, right? So you can say, I believe it's X. If your contract says Y, it's Y. Then how do you work with those parameters? So, it is definitely, you have to be on top of it. We pick the top 4 or 5 and we keep up to date. Microsoft literally changes every month. Literally.
Yeah. And with things like Microsoft, without trying to talk about them too much, the amount of add-ons or components to their software.
Your standard license, and then your this, and then you need to have this upgrade, and you've got to get pro for that. And
100%. Well, a good example of that was, so the European Union, God bless them, they're lovely. They're great for monopolies and they go after monopolies, which is great. So now we have USB-Cs for everything of that format. Thank you. But if you have a look at it even for Microsoft, because basically the issue they said was that Teams was included in some of the subscriptions as a part of a bundle. And they're saying, well, you can't because that blocks out competition. So Microsoft said, not a problem. So they broke it out. So everyone goes, the price comes down. Yeah, but if you want Teams back in, net it goes up 30%.
Yes.
And you go, thanks for that.
I haven't thought about that. That's actually probably, interesting how the EU is actually
controlling
helping them with their pricing models, perhaps.
It does. And I mean, the EU is an interesting one because they very much drive, if you look at the behavior of Apple and Google and everybody now, a lot of the behavior is driven by what's happening in the EU. So, for example, AI embedded in Siri, for example, right now, right? It's not what we do, but I was just reading it the other day. Apple's not going to launch that in Europe yet until they work out what it is, because there's going to be so many regulations around that because it stops other AI being leveraged because it's embedded in Siri now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's going to get released in Australia, in the US, and those sort of, not Europe. But England does because they're not part of the EU anymore, right?
Yeah. Brexit, yep.
So, but it's amazing how that has a ripple effect across things. Another good example, sorry, I'm jumping all over.
No, that's fine.
Is in the EU, you can resell some licensing. So if I buy licensing, for example, and I don't need it anymore, I can resell it.
Right.
I have the right to do it. Not with the big vendors,
but
with the smaller vendors, you can resell your rights.
Okay.
Right? And anywhere else in the world, it doesn't work. But in the EU, they said you have the right to do it. So no one's tested it on the big boys.
Yeah.
But on the smaller players, absolutely. There is a market where you can on-sell. And there's brokers who will sell it for you.
Wow. Interesting. What made you decide that this was the industry you wanted to be in, Doug?
Well, I started off as a butcher.
Okay.
Right?
Wow. That is a big jump.
It's a big jump, right? Yeah. Well, it's good using a meat cleaver and dealing with vendors.
I was thinking about the
meat, still cutting things.
Yeah. So I originally started in retail in South Africa and worked my way through retail into food management, textiles and all that, and then ended up being in the planning and optimization space and developing planning systems. And then God had a sense of humor and put me in IT. And then I got into IT there. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
It was more on the bridge between hardcore IT and the business, like business interpretations, that sort of stuff. And then we were looking at leaving South Africa at that stage, like a lot of people have done. And we looked at the UK and then we got offered jobs in Australia. And so we went to the interview. It was actually David Jones. And it wasn't a recruitment. It was basically come over, because it was actually cheaper to bring people from South Africa than it was from Melbourne, right? For the retail planning space.
Yeah.
Yes. So we both had got offered jobs and we thought, okay, cool, but let's go to the UK. And I'd worked in the UK and I said to my wife at the time, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
And she goes, yeah. So after our second interview, which was 2 buses and a train to get to, she was like, okay, maybe we might want to look at Australia. And then we came over here and then just got into IT. Big time. And I came over with David Jones. I lasted 3 months with the project I did and then I left.
Yep.
And I joined IBM and then that just opened up a world for me because you just saw how the other side live in the sense of technology and how important it is and that. And I sort of fell into it, not by choice, but I loved it.
Yeah.
And then what I found is because I was with all the big vendors, IBM, Oracle, SAP, the big vendors, towards the end I was getting I'm not a corporate guy because I don't like some of the behavior.
Yeah.
And that's where I set up Invictus because what we looked at was I don't like the way the behavior. Look, I made lots of money off the back of it. Don't get me wrong. And I won't give that back. I got over the guilt.
Yeah.
But, you start looking and you go, clients don't understand this.
Yeah.
And it is a bit of a black art that we need to share. And that's where we set it up was basically to get that balance of power back. Because growing up in South Africa with apartheid and all that sort of stuff, there was an imbalance all the time, and it wasn't right.
Yeah.
Because even if you go to South Africa now, black and white people, they just want to live together. Most people just want to get on with their lives, right?
Yeah.
But as soon as things happen, people do silly things, and the same is in software and in IT. And we thought, well, how do we shift that balance back?
Yeah.
And that's where we started. And it was just me initially going around with my drum and banging up to customers that I knew in the past.
Yeah.
We were looking at our original statements of work and going, how the hell did I get any business off of the back of it? It was like written on the back of a cigarette box virtually, right? Like, let's go to where we are now. And I kind of fell into it, to be brutally honest, but I loved it and embraced it. And I wouldn't go back. Like people said, if you won $1 million, 20 million, I said, I'll retire. And they said, there you are. I go, no, I wouldn't. I still do what I do because I love it.
Yeah.
I think I'm the same. If I won Tats, I've got to buy a ticket first. That's probably would help. But yes, I'd still think I'd stick at what I'm doing. Yeah. And in terms of so your observations, so starting your business yourself, what were some of the challenges or some of the observations you can share with other people or experiences you can share with other people who are on that journey from starting a business and progressing?
Well, I think fire higher and fire quickly, right? Because choose your margin very quickly, right? Don't think that expensive people are great, because sometimes they come at a cost, but they're not necessarily there. The market has paid it, but it's not what you need. Also, in a smaller business, understand what it is you need and what's required around it and the team. Get people, hire for drive and energy and train them, right? Because you can train them the way you want. Because if you bring in people that have had 20 years experience and it's my way and how I do it. It actually takes a lot out of you as well.
Yeah.
And get a blend of good experience and youngsters. If you get the blend right, it actually really, really works, right? Because what you tend to find is that someone says the older crowd,
Yep.
they tend to
like
like
us.
to, like all
Old
of us,
ones
right?
like us.
Yeah. They like to mentor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And getting somebody in and having that, it also gives them a bit of a purpose because
Yeah,
they
of course.
share and they coach and that sort of stuff. And it's great, but it also creates that next generation.
Yeah.
Because if we're not investing in that next generation, who is?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I look at, we've just gone on a recruiting right now. We brought on 2 new grads that start on Monday. And what stood out was they're wheeling and dealing whatever it takes to get out there, because the market is not as big as it was when we were there. It's a lot smaller. So, there's some great quality people out there. They don't have the skills in which you can train them, but they've got the drive, the energy. You can see that can-do attitude there. Yeah. And just watch your money. Like businesses don't go bust because they're not profitable.
Yeah.
They go bust because of cash flow.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rat up a drain pipe.
Yeah.
If they are half a second late, you're on the phone.
Yep.
Get it. Because if you don't get that cash, doesn't matter. You can't pay your bills.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Particularly if you're growing.
100%.
Because working capital, it's not, as you said, it's not about profit. It's about cash flow. And as you grow, even if you're making profit, that's a paper profit.
Yeah, correct.
It's the cash flow that keeps the wheels turning.
Yeah.
And make sure you can pay your wages and everything. So cash is king always. Yeah.
And what I've found as well is, because especially as you grow, it's also trying to determine what your growth strategy looks like, because you can bootstrap yourself. So we were bootstrapping as we went, no problems. And then what happened was, that gets you to here and to here. And it's great. But if you want to go those quantum leaps, then you need some support.
Yep.
Right. So then we did things like, 2 years ago, we did a convertible note where we went out with people and they got, it was basically 10% per annum that you get on an 18 thingy. And that really helped, not because what it is what we said though, is for every dollar that comes through there, we need a 5 to 10 times return, right? Because it's not to do that. It's okay, I want to expand in Europe.
Yeah.
I need to develop this tool because it's stuff that you couldn't necessarily do when you bootstrap, but it's stuff that takes you to that next level and then it funds itself. And then you're at that, you've moved, right?
Yeah.
So we've doubled our business over the last 3 years, right? But because of what we did, set that up. So it's getting the balance right to when some people go to a bank. I'm not a fan of going to banks for loans because they basically just take my money back, give it back and say, well, you can use your house as a guarantee. I'm going, yes, all the risk is sitting with me, isn't it? Yeah. But it's just, as a small business owner, I think the big thing there is, it's like, do you remember when you were going out partying and you had little kids and you had everything? That's nothing. Yeah. Because your life does not stop. Did you say holiday? It doesn't, there's no such thing. You go away, but you're always working.
Yeah.
Your brain's ticking over because it's still your business. Even though you've got great people, it's still your business.
Yep.
Right? Yep. And it's your baby that you look after.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what is your plan with the business?
So the plan with the business is we're working towards an exit in 2027.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've already had 2 people try to buy us, but it's too early. Yes. So we're not there yet because we all know where the trajectory we're going and you would have got it for a steal.
Yeah.
So we're working towards a 2027 exit. There's 2, and we know who we want to buy. So because we're a niche player, there's 2 very big globals. They're about 5 billion each, and they just gobble up everybody, right? Yeah. And they gobble them up because it's cheaper to buy companies than to try and create them things, right? So so their model is different. They do it based on revenue, not EBIT as well. So we get the EBIT right that says, I'm cash flush, I don't need you. But then they give it the bigger multipliers, right? Yeah. So that is the eventual goal. Yeah. Right. If it happens earlier, it's got to be a bigger check. Let's go earlier because we're all having too much fun.
Yeah.
Right.
And what does that look like for you? So let's wind the clock forward to 2027 and that big check comes along.
What is Doug doing?
What's Doug doing?
Well, I'll be tied to an earnout for 2 years at least, right?
And then after that?
And then after that, well, there's 2 things that I would like to do. Number one is when I get those fundings, so say, for example, it's a 50% upfront and 50% after earnout, right? Part of that is also going to be, I want to give back in the sense of, okay, so smaller businesses, well, you know what, like an angel investor sort of thing. And say, well, how could I, provide that? And it could be that and also some guidance.
Yes.
And not charge for that. It's more providing that as a guidance to people and go, hey, have you thought of, what about this? I've got a guy that I'm coaching now who's just starting up his business. He's been in corporate. He's got a great model, but he's only been going for 6 months. What about, I'm going, there's a lot of stuff. Hang on. You don't need all that stuff. Relax. Keep your money. Do these things. And doing some of that.
Yep.
And then once the exit happens, maybe start again.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Butchery?
I've got my butcher at home. I always have great meat. Shout out to Belmore Meats in Baldwin.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Fantastic. Biodynamic meats.
Yeah, they do. They were doing meat boxes during COVID.
Yeah.
You could just turn up and they would like push it out the front door. So there was no contact. And that was very cool. I know
they actually
Belmore
deliver
Meats
to
and
us
stuff.
in Brighton.
Oh, wow.
And literally, they go on a
Awesome.
Thursday. They'll get our order in. It'll rock up at our door.
That's super cool. I love businesses that do that sort of
so
stuff.
a particular favourite cut of meat or?
So we still prefer the fillet because it's very low fat.
Yes.
I still do like my 2.5-inch ribeyes, the 750 gram ribeye.
Yes. Yeah.
That nice thing through.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, we don't mind the steak.
Yeah.
How big is Invictus Partners in terms of, you don't need to put a dollar number on how big it is, but number of people on seats. The number of people on seats for your 2027 plan, that sort of stuff. Things that people, will be thinking in their mind, oh, I wonder how big Doug's business is. Like, what do you get to a point to go, okay, it's time to sell out at 2027? Like, what's the 4-year plan on that, or 3-year plan now? But
So if you look at people, 19 people.
Yep.
We've got 2 in South Africa, 1 in Philippines. We're bringing on 2 in the UK.
Yep.
By November. So we're already in conversations with them. They just got to leave the other place and they're waiting for their earn-outs from there. So we've got that, and we've got 1 in the US at the moment. The plan then is to rather go through the US through partners. Initially, we're still working with clients in the US. Like I was on a call this morning with McCain and Canada and stuff like that. But where it's at is locally we'll still grow a bit more. I reckon by the end of the year we'll be at 30.
Okay.
I don't want to be a 100-person business. We're building a lot more with AI. So we're doing another convertible note round now, which is all about investing in the platform. So we can take on twice the work with the same people. Basically. So then all that happens is my margins, like on my margins on Oracle, go from 70 to 80. Stuff like that. So
and in terms of equity, do you offer it to employees or?
So we've got 2 things. We've got an employee share options plan. And we've had that written up so that it's basically you stay, you keep it, you go, you lose it. Right. But when we exit, you tie to the conditions of the exit. Right. Now it doesn't go to everybody. We've structured it as a key dial one, right? Because it's not like, hi, I'm Bob and I just mop the floors. It's an important role, Bob, but that's why you get paid. It's people that can move the needle.
Sure.
Right. So, and it's also been used for if we need to get somebody on board, but they're a bit out of our reach commercially. Do we go, okay, I can squeeze a bit more here, but I can give you some options.
Yes. Okay.
Well. So,
great. Yeah. It's certainly ESOPs are becoming more popular in that respect. And for that exact reason to be able to attract good quality people who can see the vision and the end game. So that's a good strategy.
And I think, the issue that you have in Australia versus, say, the US, for example, like, as a startup, as an example, there's a lot more leeway as a startup in the US than there is in Australia. Australia, from an investment and a taxation point of view, there's a lot more restrictions that you need to be aware of. Right?
Yes.
I mean, like when we went through the whole ESOP stuff, everything was all about, I don't want to create a taxation event for them now. So, for example, our business is set up as Invictus Pty Limited in Australia, and that's the trading entity for Australia. But then we've got EMEA, which is Europe, and LLC in the US, but it's the holding company is global.
Yes.
So what we did is, because Australia is almost 10 years old, we couldn't do it in Australia because then all of a sudden they're mature based on it. You passed the startup stage.
Yes.
And that would have created a taxation event. I'm going, that's fantastic. So they've got nothing, but they've got to pay tax on something.
Yes.
So we moved it into global and rather did it that way so that we can leverage that. But these are things that you've got to be thinking of all the time because someone doesn't go, oh, thanks for that asset that I've just got to pay tax on that I've got no value out of yet. Right. We're trying to do it so that it's tied to an event and the event will pay your tax. So you don't have to worry. So there's nothing on you. It'll take care of it.
Excellent. No, good strategy. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I'm always curious. One of the things we always talk about, and that's why we're asking before about what does Doug look like in, say, 5 years' time. One of the things we find with businesses, particularly if they've got that exit strategy, which is great, it's about them not having what's the plans after that.
Yeah.
And we've seen that with a lot of businesses where they retire and then they've got no plan after it, and then they get bored or they have mental health issues because they're sitting around not knowing what to do, causes relationship strains, everything.
100%.
So it's really important to have that next step. So beyond helping others and giving back in that respect. So what are your other personal interests that you think you'll do more of when you can get that time for holidays?
Well, my wife said that she wants the apartment on the world.
Yeah.
And then she goes, I said, yeah, but what about? And she goes, no, whenever we stop at port, you can bugger off. You go do some work and you can meet us at the next port. Or whatever. And I thought, actually, that could work.
Yeah.
I would love to go back and do a round again.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is maybe it's the same business model because once your earnout's done, you can start again.
Yeah.
But would there be anything different you do that time?
Sorry,
That's where I was leading to. Sorry, wasn't articulate enough in that. Yeah.
I think, well, it's interesting because my daughters will be, if you forward wind, I've got 2 older daughters. So they'll be in university and who cares about you, Dad? We love you. Where's the money? Send money.
Yeah, correct.
Then it'll be my younger daughter who'll be starting like in high school.
Yeah,
right?
okay.
So I've made a conscious effort to spend time with my kids where I can. And then that's with her.
Yeah.
We're probably going to move to Queensland.
Yep.
So with that, then comes a whole life around that.
Sure.
And the reason for that, is it weather related?
100% weather. Okay, 100% weather related. Right. I hate the cold. I'm in the wrong town, but it is what it is.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but we'll move up there because my ex-wife and my older 2, they're here.
Yep.
And I want to be there for them through high school.
Sure.
Once they're finished, then we'll look at doing stuff. And then move up to Noosa.
Yeah.
Because we love Noosa. Yeah. Anyway, we're up there. Every chance we get, we're up there. It's just my other place to work from.
Yes.
Your holiday.
Yes.
And I think it's just more, I'll give my hand at golf. I'm terrible at it. I'm like Happy Gilmore with the language. And then I think it's just more some of the stuff, because I used to be actively involved in South Africa in the Rotaract and everything to that effect. So that concept of giving back is important because if you actually look at the endorphins that you get, it's like when you help someone, you get that injection of endorphins, right? And it's not saying I'm a drug addict, I want those endorphins, but it just gives a great feeling. And I think when you do stuff because you love it and you give back because you genuinely want to, I think as a person, it rounds you off a lot more. Right? There's a 3-legged stool. There's not a 2-legged stool. There's always 3. So you need that from a spiritual point of view, I believe. And that's one of the things that I look at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Yeah.
So you mentioned the kids, and we always talk about the fact that our business is another one of our children, and it really is. And I think that just from listening to you speak, it's the same for you, and the same about you're never on holidays. You're always at work, and even if you are away, you're just working somewhere different, and you're always online. And that's how we are with our business as well. Shane probably more so than me because he's the one who's client facing out of the 2 of what we do. But we talk about this a bit, and about work-life balance and all of that sort of stuff. And I think there's new theory around it that it is not about work-life balance as much as making sure that there's balance in life. It's just life balance. It's not work-life balance, because and this is a cliche as well, that if you love what you do, you're not really working. You're just loving what you do, and you get up every day and love it. For you talked about golf and how you're not very good at it, and we also have talked about how we're not very good at golf. What do you do when you are not at work? Like, what are the things that make Doug tick outside of the stuff that you love about work and, the service and all of those things that are important to you? But there's got to be something like music or butchery.
I love
stuff.
vinyls.
Yep.
Right. So big collection of vinyls, especially 80s.
Yep.
Okay.
Have to be 80s, 80s vinyls.
I've got the Rick Astley on vinyl.
Oh, everyone's got Rick Astley. Come on, everyone has to have that. You're never going to give it up.
No.
Very good. So vinyls, I love vinyls. I collect them. I go to places and look at Greville Street's great just to browse. It's great. You can spend like 2 hours in there browsing and buy one record. Yeah. And that was there. I love going for walks as well. Just out there. I love going for walks with my wife actually, because it's the one time we get. It's just the 2 of us just to go and talk as well. Love movies.
Yeah.
Only issue is I've set up my man cave now because I'm sick and tired of watching everything on the phone.
Yes.
It's been 10 years. It's time.
Yeah.
Right. So
any particular genre of movie that you're into?
Oh, it's quite diverse.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's just, everything from crazy slapstick comedy through to drama, through to dark comedies.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
To me, pushing the boundaries I like. I don't like mainstream predictable. There's too many rehashes of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think go and find something that could have been a smash, but just had a crappy director and it just bombed. Yeah. Find that and remake that.
Yeah.
That'll be good. Still a classic is, and I'm going to drop my grading now, but it's like still Dumb and Dumber. Love Dumb and Dumber. When you get exposed when you're younger to movies like Top Secret and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Going through there as well. Yeah. But I like my daughters, my older daughters, they all like Wes Anderson. So we go whenever the new ones come out, go and watch that.
Yeah.
Not a big fan of his. There's two that I like, Royal Tenenbaums and brain fart now. Yeah. Anyway. I've already lost you.
I'm not an intellectual movie watcher.
If you'd mentioned Top Gun or
something that's I don't have
Tropic
to concentrate
Thunder.
too much on.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The other day I took my younger daughter to go and watch the new Inside Out.
Oh,
Inside
Out.
And I thought, great, 90 minutes of sleep. I can just chill out, switch off. And I was like, it's actually not bad.
Yeah.
It's quite good.
It is quite a good movie.
Yeah.
I haven't watched the new one, but the other one, and but it's not one that you can switch off at. Those movies are pretty cool. They've got a good storyline around them as well.
And I used to like going out socializing, going out for a drink and
used
stuff like that. Yeah, because,
what, are you too old for that?
No,
now, Doug?
not at all. I still like the socializing part. But July last year, I decided, let's not have a drink. And since then, it's now 12 months coming up. Wow. And I actually found that it actually made me, I didn't lose any weight. Like everyone always says, you lose that. Well, maybe you were a bit of a heifer before that. But it's more, I just found, because I don't sleep a lot, so I actually am more refreshed. Fog's gone. And running your business, and because what you do is you start a business basically in Melbourne and go global. It works on no time zone.
It's
so you got
insane.
Like this week, I was on a call from 11 at like 1 in the morning. This morning on with McCain at 5. But it just made it so much easier. So the socializing side is great. And you actually realize, this shit isn't that funny, guys. We've said the same story 3 times and you're laughing at it. It's not that funny anymore, right? It does make it a bit interesting when everyone's well on their way. And you're like, yes, this heaps normal is lovely. It is good, isn't it?
So you still drink non-alcoholic?
Now and then.
Because
I still like it.
Shane has tasted the no alcohol, low alcohol beer, and he's like,
most of it is
I don't like beer enough to drink the ones without
most of it is
the alcohol.
Gross. The only one I would like is heaps normal. And the ale.
So what was the first one you said?
So heaps normal.
Heaps normal.
I haven't heard of that one.
It's actually pretty good. It only comes in packs of 4. It's really nice.
Okay.
But try the ale.
Okay. Will do. All right. Yeah, because I haven't found one yet that I like.
No. Okay. And if you were looking at Heineken.
Yes.
That's like the benchmark of McDonald's is the benchmark for burgers, right? So,
Yes.
Oh dear, we've completely digressed off the topic now, and we're into what you drink at the pub. We don't drink a lot either. I often think about the people who do Dry July and all of that sort of stuff, and I'm not quite committed enough to not drinking alcohol to do any of those. But I get it because from when you're my age and everyone around you is the same age, and you're starting to talk about things like perimenopause and all the things that happen in women's lives, and
you don't need to add this
the
on top of it,
constant
right?
brain fog is like a thing, and we've been talking about it in the office recently because we do have a number of people in our office who are also going through the same time of life, and sleep and brain fog, and still having to function on a daily basis, and for you having to do that on a 24-hour time clock because your business is everywhere. Our daughter is living on the other side of the world at the moment, and so we are, we do a bit of that. She's awake when we're asleep, and so we'll be, on the phone to her at midnight, which is a bit tough. And so I think we're probably a little tired from the fact that our time zone has been. I can't imagine having to do that and function like that. To me is just really like, oh my gosh, Doug, that's crazy.
Well, I remember there was that meme that came out. It said, when you were younger, your parents said, you have to be home by 8, and that was punishment. Now that's like, thank you.
Yes.
Correct. I'm going to be home by 8 in my PJs.
I'll be in bed.
I'm ready to go.
A good night out is like watching TV with your pajamas and, eating takeaway food or something. That's life now.
How our life changes.
So
Tuesday night. I had a call with Telia company, which is basically Telstra for Sweden, right? So we had a call with them that went on for an hour and a half. So that finished at 12:30, and then you got to wind down. So you do the proverbial Instagram.
Yep.
Oh my God, brain dead, and then
Mm-hmm.
eventually get to bed, and then I had to get up because I had a breakfast meeting at 7, and then you get up and you go, and then last night calls all the way through till 1. This morning up at 5, but it's just because the clients are all over the world, and the good thing about it is our clients are actually. I'm very blessed that they do factor that into the equation.
Okay.
Right. So, for example, the clients on the Eastern Seaboard, like I got a call tomorrow morning with Element Solutions in Atlanta, and he goes, Doug, I can do 5 p.m. my time. Man, you didn't have to.
Yeah.
He's the global CIO. You can say, Doug, I need to, this is the only time I got. I'll be on the call at 5. I'm like, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that because that's 7 a.m. for me. And that's so so a lot of them are actually very considerate. Like we got some clients in Italy, which I love working. Still got like Giorgio Armani, Salvatore Ferragamo, and those guys. And they're great because first of all, it's a great way to finish the day because they're starting in the morning, but they gesticulate, they're chatting away, the accent and everything. Yeah. But they'll always do it first thing in the morning.
Yeah.
So no calls go past 12 o'clock because they're 8 hours behind us. So no calls, which is 8 p.m.
Yeah.
They've always their calls happen between 8 and 12.
Okay.
And I'm like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So they're very accommodating. And you get to the Middle East, not so much. You have calls on Christmas Eve.
Right.
Oh, wow.
Like
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
But it doesn't matter. It's just because normally they're doing it not because they want to, it's because they need to. Right. And if you're helping them, there's obviously a reason why. So whatever you can do, you got to be on that call for them. Because basically you're the consigliere to guide them through what they're going through.
Yeah.
I feel like one of those ones. It's phone a friend when you stay away from the drink, or I'm feeling suicidal, or something like that. Give a friend a call.
Yeah. I think that the day and age that we're working in, when our careers began, we didn't have mobile phones. We didn't have computers. We were talking to some of the team at our office the other day about how, Shane, there was one computer in an office of 35 people or however many.
Sounded good though.
And everyone used the same computer because there was just one computer, and you used to there was a typewriter in the corner, and if you needed to send a fax, you type it first and then put it through the fax machine. And the days of communicating are completely different now. And even from a personal perspective, like you've probably still got family in other places in the world, and your ability to communicate with them, you don't have to send them an airmail letter anymore.
Yeah, I remember that used to be, and your dad was watching next to the phone with the clock. And, get off.
Yeah,
You've had enough time, right?
Yeah.
And going into a phone booth in another country and having to reverse charge callback and things like that. And nowadays we're completely global, and you're on calls, in the middle of the night to other places, and life has changed so much and technology has changed so much. And without people like you guiding, you're guiding really big businesses, but then you're also giving your knowledge to businesses like ours and smaller businesses, because I know you've got an amazing blog that you share and your socials, and just sharing content and information with people so that everyone gets to benefit from what your experience is. And we can do that now when we couldn't do it in the past. Yeah. And, you talked about AI and how that's going to change, the next level of communication and what it's going to be able to bring to business and as business owners. And I know you are also a business owner, but you're kind of giving a platform to business owners like us to understand that technology better. And, thank you for that. And thank you for being part of our podcast today and sharing a bit of your experience and your world and your life view, and really looking forward to getting some of your info onto the Aintree Group blog so that you can share stuff. You've very, very generously given us access to information that we can share with our clients, and we really appreciate that, Doug. So thank you for joining us today. And
thank you for the opportunity.
It's been terrific. I think from my perspective, certainly, and I think I speak for Shane as well, that your business values are really very, very similar to ours. And so, there's definitely a huge synergy between what you do and what we do. So thank you for sharing with us, and thank you for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Love chatting. Great.
Excellent. We will share all of your social media, your website details and everything as part of this podcast so people can get in touch with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will say though, Doug deals with really big businesses, but
that's fine. Like I said, if it's a half an hour phone call is not a problem. I've got no issues with those.
And we appreciate that as well. So thanks so much, Doug, and thanks for joining us today.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Thank you.